Govinda, Govinda, Gopala Nanda Lal. Krishna, Govinda, Govinda, Gopala Nanda Lal. Govinda, Govinda, Gopala Nanda Lal. Govinda, Govinda, Gopala. Govinda, Govinda, Gopala Nanda Lal. Krishna, Govinda, Govinda, Gopala Nanda Lal. Govinda, Govinda, Gopala Nanda Lal. Govinda, Govinda, Gopala. Krishna Govinda, Govinda, Gopala Nanda Lal. Krishna Govinda, Govinda, Gopala Nanda Lal. Govinda, Govinda, Gopala Nanda Lal. Krishna Govinda, Govinda, Gopala Nanda Lal. Hey Gopala Nanda Lal. Gopal Nanda Lal, 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 Gopal Nanda Hey Gopal Nanda Lal, Gopal Nanda Govinda, Govinda, Gopala Nanda Lal. Krishna 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 Govinda, Govinda, Gopala Nanda Lal. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Janmadhyasya yatonvayate taratascharsvabhigyasvarat teni brahma hridaya adikavaye muhyanti yat surayah tejo varimridam yatha vinimayo yatra trisargam risha dhamnasvena sada nirasta kuhakam satyam param dhimahi satyam param dhimahi Satyam param dhimahi Yam pravrajanta manupeta mateta krityam Dvaipayano virahakatara juhava Putreti tanmayatayo taravo vinedus Tam sarva bhuta hridayam munimanatosmi Narayanam namaskritya naram cheva narottamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jayam mudiraye nashta prayeshva bhadrishu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavata shloke bhaktir bhav. Hare Krishna. So we'll continue reading the 22nd chapter of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna steals the gopis' garments. We'll chant together the verse number 4, which is the most important prayer. Katyayani Mahamaye Katyayani Mahamaye Mahayoginyadhishwari Mahayoginyadhishwari Nandagopasutam Devi Nandagopasutam Devi Patime kurute namaha Patime kurute namaha iti mantram japatyasta. Iti mantram japantyasta. Pujam chakro kumarikaha. Pujam chakro kumarikaha. Katyayani mahamaye. Mahayoginyadhishwari. Nandagopasutam devi. Patimme kurute namaha. Eti mantram japantyasta. Ujjam chakro kumarikaha. Katyayani. O goddess Katyayani. Mahamaye. O great potency. Mahayogini. O possessor of great mystic powers. Adhishwari. Almighty controller. Nandagopasutam. The son of Maharaja Nanda. Devi. O goddess. Patim. The husband. Me. My. Kuru. Please make. Te. Unto you. Namaha. My obeisances. Iti. With these words. Mantram. The hymn. Japantyaha. Chanting. Taha. They. Pujam. Worship. Chakruhu. Performed. Kumarikaha. The unmarried girls. Translation. Each of the young unmarried girls performed her worship while chanting the following mantra. O goddess Katyayani, O great potency of the Lord, O possessor of great mystic power and mighty controller of all, please make the son of Nanda Maharaja my husband. I offer my obeisances unto you. Purport. According to various acharyas, the goddess Durga, mentioned in this verse, is not the illusory energy of Krishna called Maya, but rather the internal potency of the Lord, known as Yoga Maya. The distinction between the internal and external or illusory potency of the Lord is described in the Narada Pancharatra in the conversation between Shruti and Vidya. Janat eka para kantam saiva durga tadatmika ya para parama shaktir mahavishnu swarupini. Please know that there is one Durga who is one with God, who is non-different from God. And then she is Paramashakti, Mahavishnu Swarupini. She has the same form as the Lord. Yasya Vijnana Matrena Pranamam Paramatmanaha Muhurtat Deva Devasya Praptir Bhavati Nanyatha Ekeyam Prema Sarvasva Svabhava Gokuleshwari Anya Sulabhogeya Adideva Akhileshwaraha Asya Avarika Shaktihi Maha Maya Akhileshwari Yaya Mugdam Jagat Sarvam Sarve Deva Deha Abhimanaha. Translation. The Lord's inferior potency, known as Durga, is dedicated to his loving service Being the Lord's potency, this inferior energy is non-different from him. There is another superior potency whose form is on the same spiritual level as that of the Lord. Simply by scientifically understanding this supreme potency, one can immediately achieve the supreme soul of all souls, who is the Lord of all lords. There is no other Gakuleshwari, the goddess of Gokula. There is no other process to achieve him. That supreme potency of the Lord is known as Gokuleshwari, the goddess of Gokula. Her nature is to be completely absorbed in love of God, and through her one can easily obtain the primeval God, the Lord of all that be. This internal potency of the Lord has a covering potency known as Mahamaya, who rules the material world. In fact, she bewilders the entire universe, and thus everyone within the universe falsely identifies himself with the material body. From the above, we can understand that the internal and external, or superior and inferior potencies of the Supreme Lord are personified as Yogamaya and Mahamaya, respectively. The name Durga is sometimes used to refer to the internal superior potency, as stated in the Narada Pancharatra. In all mantras used to worship Krishna, the presiding deity is known as Durga. Thus, in the transcendental sound vibration, glorifying and worshipping the absolute truth Krishna, the presiding deity of the particular mantra or hymn is called Durga. The name Durga therefore refers also to the personality who functions as the internal potency of the Lord and who is thus on the platform of Shuddha Sattva, pure transcendental existence. This internal potency is understood to be Krishna's sister, known as Ekanamsha or Subhadra. This is the Durga who was worshipped by the gopis in Vrindavan. Several acharyas have pointed out that ordinary people are sometimes bewildered and think that the names Mahamaya and Durga refer exclusively to the external potency of the Lord. Even if we accept hypothetically that the gopis were worshipping the external Maya, there is no fault on their part, since in their pastimes of loving Krishna, they were acting as ordinary members of society. Srila Prabhupada comments in this regard, the Vaishnavas generally do not worship the demigods. Srila strictly forbidden all worship of the demigods for anyone who wants to advance in pure devotional service. Yet the gopis, who are beyond compare in their affection for Krishna, seem to worship Durga. The worshippers of demigods also sometimes mention that the gopis also worshipped goddess Durga, but we must understand the purpose of the gopis. Generally, people worship goddess Durga for some material benediction. Here, the gopis could adopt any means to satisfy or serve Krishna. That was the super excellent characteristic of the gopis. They worshipped goddess Durga completely for 1 month in order to have Krishna as their husband. Every day they prayed for Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj, to become their husband. The conclusion is that a sincere devotee of Krishna will never imagine any material quality to exist in the transcendental gopis, who are the most exalted devotees of the Lord. The only motivation in all their activities was simply to love and satisfy Krishna. And if we foolishly consider their activities to be mundane in any way, it will be impossible for us to understand Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I will also read the translation of previous and next 2 verses. So verses 2 and 3. My dear king, after they had bathed in the water of Yamuna, just as the sun was rising, the gopis made a nursing deity of goddess Durga on the riverbank. Then they worshipped her with such aromatic substances as sandalwood pulp, along with other items, both opulent and simple, including lamps, fruits, betel nuts, newly grown leaves, and fragrant garland and incense. And the next two verses. Thus, for the entire month, the girls carried out their vow and properly worshipped the goddess Bhadrakali, fully absorbing their minds in Krishna and meditating upon the following thought: may the son of King Nanda become my husband. Each day they rose at dawn, calling out to one another by name. They all held hands and loudly sang the glories of Krishna while going to the Kalindi to take their baths. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakaupatarobhyascha Kripa Sindhubheva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Yantah Pradeshya Mama Vachi Mamam Prasuktam Sanjeevayata Kila Shakti Darak Svadhamna Anyam Shahasta Charana Shravana Tvagadim Pranam Namo Bhagavate Purushaya Tubhyam Svasyasta Vishwasya Kala Prasida Tandryantu Bhutani Shivam Mitodya Manascha Badram Bhajata Tadokshaje Aveshyatam Nomati Rabhyahai Tuki. Hare Krishna. So we continue reading this chapter, and at the same time trying to understand the process of meditation which is recommended in the Srimad Bhagavatam from the very beginning. This is one of the most important topics of Srimad Bhagavatam. In fact, Srimad Bhagavatam can only be understood not intellectually, but through the process of meditation. If you try to dissect Srimad Bhagavatam and analyze Srimad Bhagavatam and divide it into different parts and imagine that you understood Srimad Bhagavatam, you have cheated yourself. Srimad Bhagavatam is written in Samadhi Bhasha. It's a product of or creation of Vyasadeva Samadhi. He was absorbed completely in the Samadhi, and in Samadhi he saw everything, and he described. So the process of understanding of Srimad Bhagavatam is again Samadhi. Of course, initially we cannot go into Samadhi, but as I explained yesterday, there are 5 stages of approaching Samadhi. There are 4 preliminary stages before we can enter Samadhi, and we can in this way gradually understand Srimad Bhagavatam through the absorption into the subject matter without trying to intellectually analyze it. Because if we try to intellectually analyze Srimad Bhagavatam, we will be baffled completely. When we'll try to imagine how nicely Surasena Maharaj was guarded with 4 quadrillion of guards in a small city of Dwarka, we will just be completely bewildered by this. So when we'll try to imagine how, the body of Putana, 1 yojana long, and so many other completely strange statements of Srimad Bhagavatam. Therefore, I was told that Gopi Parandana Prabhu, the great Sanskrit scholar and the knower of Srimad Bhagavatam, when he was trying or planning to explain the overview of Srimad Bhagavatam. An overview basically means that you look over on Srimad Bhagavatam. He said, we cannot look over on Srimad Bhagavatam. It means that we are higher than Srimad Bhagavatam. So he called his course Underview of Srimad Bhagavatam. So you look at Srimad Bhagavatam being in a lower position and try to accept Srimad Bhagavatam. Not dissect Srimad Bhagavatam, not try to analyze Srimad Bhagavatam in your rational capacity, because Srimad Bhagavatam is beyond your intelligence. There's no chance for us to understand Srimad Bhagavatam by just mundane intelligence and ordinary linear logic. So the meditation is the process, and in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Narada Muni himself explains how this process works. He says, basically, you become, this is also a statement of, I believe, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, which explains that you become what you meditate upon. You gradually, by this process of concentration, your mind, you change even your physical appearance to a certain extent, and definitely in the next life you become the object of your meditation, or you become like the object of your meditation. The same is explained by Krishna in the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Of course, yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajatante kalevaram tantame vaiti kaunteya sadatat bhava bhavitaha. Whatever is the object of your constant meditation, you become like this. And Narada Muni gives the example of worm and the bumblebee, and the worm, because of the fear of bumblebee, always meditating on the bumblebee, and ultimately becomes bumblebee. So this transformation takes place, and this is the real process. You can actually see the some sort of reflection of Krishna's beauty even in the faces of devotees. They become like Krishna to a certain extent. This is a very powerful process, and we have to understand we should not be desperate because we cannot meditate immediately. We have to be content with the level of meditation which we are capable of at this moment of time, hoping that the process itself will make us eligible for the better state of meditation. Sometimes people say, oh, my japa is so horrible. Yes, your japa is definitely horrible. You're also horrible, no problem. But that's, there is no trick. There is no just some magic trick by which you, all of a sudden, your japa will become. You just try, sincerely try, and some changes gradually will take place, and your mind will become more concentrated. So from smarana to dharana, you will be able to hold the object of meditation for some time. From dharana to dhyana, the time of your holding the object of meditation will become longer, and you will see the object of meditation in more details. From dhyana to dhruvanusmriti, when your meditation finally becomes continuous. It's actually the reason why continuance means 24 hours. And that's the reason why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even though he stresses the power of kirtan and recommends kirtan as the best, Taramadi, Sarvashrestha, Nama Sankirtan, out of all the methods of devotional service, Nama Sankirtan is the best, is Sarvashrestha. But at the same time, he says we should chant japa. Why should we chant japa? What is the reason behind it? You know, if kirtan is the most powerful, if our japa is horrible, why should we chant japa? The reason is that ideally we should chant japa for longer period of time, and this longer period of serving japa, serving the holy name, will help us to enter into another space where our meditation will become continuous. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya, he recommended 64 rounds. 64 rounds means that after 64 rounds, you will not be able to think about anything else. You will be, the rest of the day, will be thinking about the holy name. So that's the idea. You know, for five or 6 consecutive hours, you're sitting there chanting Hare Krishna, and then, you know, for the rest of the day, you can only chant Hare Krishna. You're good for nothing else. So, in this way, your meditation becomes continuous. And when your meditation becomes continuous, you ultimately enter into samadhi. And entering into samadhi means you're entering the Lila. You're entering the spiritual dimension, which is there, which is accessible, which is actually right there. We just don't have the eligibility, the qualification to enter it because our mind is absorbed in the matter. And there is a very practical example of how it works, very successful and inspirational example in regard to this particular chapter. In the south of India, of course you must have heard, there were 11 predecessors of Ramanuja Acharya and other acharyas of the Yamuna Acharya and Natha Muni, 11 alvars who lived in the beginning of Kali Yuga, around the time when Krishna passed away. The very first alvars were even during Krishna's time. Namalvar, who is considered to be the chief of all alvars, he was born, as far as I remember, 48 days after the departure of Krishna. And his whole life he was lamenting that he just missed 48 days. He could have seen Krishna. But anyway, among these 11 saints, there was one lady saint, Andal, and she has a poem which is called Tiruvapai, which consists of 30 hymns. And these hymns are still chanted regularly in the months of Margashirsha, the same months which is described here, Hemante Prathama Mase, in this chapter. And every day, there are 30 days in the months, and there are 30 hymns, and every day the pious Hindu ladies in the south, they chant Andal's verses. And this verses is nothing but meditation on this particular chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. She meditates how she is there in the bank of Yamuna and how she's taking baths in the cold waters of Yamuna, completely naked, and how she's praying to Goddess Katyayani. So for one whole month, she was meditating, and these prayers, these verses, which are still there, is a result of her meditation. In the complete details, she's explaining what is happening there on the bank of Yamuna and how he ultimately comes and steals the garment and promises, okay, I will take you, no problem, don't worry, don't be hysterical. Anyway, the reason why I'm telling this story is that ultimately that happened with Andal. For 1 month, Andal was meditating deeply in these verses of this chapter and rewriting it and writing her own verses and prayers. And at the end of this, Ranganath, the Supreme Lord who is there in Sri Rangam, sent the whole procession to take her. And he said, I want to marry with her. I like this girl. So her father, who was also a great devotee, he was completely shocked. He just couldn't believe it. But, when all the priests came from Sri Rangam temple with all the carts and, with great pomp, they put Andal on the cart and they brought her to Sri Rangam temple. And her father, of course, was there. He was supposed to be there with the bride in this marriage procession. He still couldn't believe it. He just thought it's absurd what's going on. My daughter is going to marry Ranganath. What's happening? And then when she entered the temple, ultimately, with great pomp and music and everything, and they put garlands on her, and she was in a marriage dress, and she started going towards the altar of Ranganath. And her father, he was crying, don't do it, don't commit this aparad, this is aparad. Then ultimately he fainted, and she just entered the altar of Ranganath, sit on his laps and entered his body and disappeared from this world. So and since then they celebrate this marriage of Ranganath with Andal, and it's still the tradition, and she's one of the wives of Ranganath. So that's what happened with her, and therefore, all the pious ladies, they repeat it again. They may not have very strong faith into the process, but still they do it. But the point is that it works. That's what I want to explain. And Sukadeva Goswami explains what happened there very briefly and out of order. Sukadeva Goswami is quite bewildered. Every now and then he completely changes the order. So first he explains here in the verses which we read, first he explains how they were worshipping Katyayani, and then he explains how in the morning they would get up and go to each other's house, knock at each other's doors, and call each other. And then Sukadeva Goswami remembers that he didn't explain what happened before. So that's Acharya's comment on this, and they say he's just in complete ecstasy, so he's drunk. So don't expect from him to be completely 100% logical. And Srila Jiva Goswami, while explaining this Lila in Gopal Champu, he actually elaborates on this and explains something which was not explained by Sukadeva Goswami himself. And again, this is the result of his meditation. He's taking this and he's meditating and he's really seeing what was happening. So he explains it's something which was before. Because Sukadeva Goswami doesn't say, where did they get this mantra from? And how did they know that they should chant this mantra? You cannot just, read a book and pick up mantra from the book and start worshipping and hope that you will be successful. You need to have a guru. You need to receive mantra from a guru. You need to receive not only mantra from a guru, you need to receive the complete detailed process of the worship according to your desired goal. Otherwise, it will be just a farce. So that's why Srila Jiva Goswami, he explains the details and how it happened. How did they get the mantra? Who was their guru? And what is the dynamic which ultimately brought them together? And how is it possible, did they have some, social network, and then, through Facebook, they arranged that, at such and such day we meet on the riverbank. Or Facebook, they arranged that, at such and such day we meet on the riverbank. Or how it happened? what was the process. So Srila Jiva Goswami says that before all these very young girls, Kumarikas, they were worshipping different devatas, because they were, they're pious Hindu ladies, who know that if you want to fulfill your desires, you should worship some devatas. And according to the family tradition, according to their likings and their understanding of efficacy of the process, they were praying to different devatas, but result was zero. And they were completely bewildered. They were praying, oh, please, somehow or other, make Krishna our husband. Krishna was the hero of the village. He was the first boy in the village, and everyone without exception was in love with him. And these young girls, they were hiding their feelings. They couldn't reveal these feelings to anyone, and they thought, I'm the only one like this. And they were suffering like anything. They were very beautiful, but as Jiva Goswami says, due to this internal sufferings and internal tension, their beauty was waning like the moon. They were beautiful like the moon, but the moon, we know, have the tendency of shrinking in the dark half of the month. So that was happening with these girls, and the desire was becoming stronger and stronger and stronger. And at one point, out of desperation, they decided to go to Yamuna. And to their great surprise, each one of them, there was no Facebook at that time, each one of them came at the same time, at the same place, together, and they found, and they started asking each other, what are you doing here? How come you are here? What's the reason of you being here? And Srila Jiva Goswami explains the mechanism of this unanimity, how they became one-minded, how their hearts completely merged together. He said that if you have if you have similar aspirations, and if your aspirations are very strong, then by the will of providence, by the arrangement of the providence, you will find similar people with similar aspiration, and you will find somebody who will help you to fulfill your aspirations. And Srila Jiva Goswami compares it with contemporary, he illustrates it with contemporary example. He said, like the people who have similar desires to learn something, they come, and automatically, without any preliminary agreement, they come to the same teacher. They find the same teacher. Like people, they know that there is some good, in our case, it's some good university. And they come to the same university, they enter the same university, and to their surprise, they understand that their aspirations are similar. So it's the arrangement of the providence which helps us to find something. And actually, we can see, even in ISKCON, I've seen, in some cases, in many cases actually, you can recognize disciples of one particular spiritual master just by their faces. They look sometimes similar to him. There is some distinct similarity in this group. They're somehow or other, they're attracted to a particular personality, and this attraction is because they are of similar nature. And that makes the attraction possible, and they come together. That's basically what happened with... and they came from different villages even. And if you were in Chirgat in Vrindavan, Chirgat is far away. It's very far away from the village, and they actually didn't want to know anyone what they're doing. Therefore, they found this secluded place, totally deserted place, far, far away. Even now, it's very far away, and hardly any roads are going to this place. So they came, and Srila Jiva Goswami says that like students come to the same spiritual master, and definitely the example of Narottam Das Thakur and Shyamananda and Srinivas Acharya from different places who came to the same guru and studied under the same guru. So they came there, and to their great surprise, they found the huge group of girls of the similar age, and immediately they understood that, you know, every one of us has the same desire. They knew there is no question of hiding it. Everyone knew that, you know, what is there, and they started, you know, talking to each other, and they already felt great relief while revealing their hearts. It's actually the need and the purpose of sadhu sangha. Sadhu sangha only becomes complete, you know. Sometimes people have very formal understanding of sadhu sangha. Sadhu sangha is the gathering where you can, where you don't have to hide anything within your heart, where you can completely reveal what is there in the heart. Then only, you know, this sajatiya, when this sajati is there, then you can reveal your heart and you feel actually what's happening. So they were, for some time, they were in complete ecstasy by meeting each other. And Srila Jiva Goswami actually, he says that before that, sometimes they were quarreling with each other. Does it sound familiar to us? But when they came and when they realized that they all have the same goal, the same desire, and completely unified, they completely forgot about their previous quarrels, and they decided to worship Katyayani together, as commentator says here, that, or actually Srila Jiva Goswami says that the worship, when we worship together, it's more powerful. It's much more powerful than when we do our individual worship or individual puja, when we gather together, especially when our hearts are unified and we have the same purpose. So, and Srila Jiva Goswami, then he says that Vrinda Devi, who is the goddess of Vrindavan, who is the goddess of this forest, she knew what is happening. And she heard their desperate cries and desperate prayers. And she decided to come for their rescue, to help them. Vrinda Devi, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Vrinda Devi Ashtaka explains her appearance. He says that she has the skin of a molten gold, and her dress is red. Banduka Bandu. So this red ascetic, she's an ascetic woman. She's clad in bright red dress, and she came out of, you know, out of the woods, out of nowhere, and she said, okay, don't worry. I know what is there, what is the desire within your heart, and I will help you, and I will teach you Vidya. Vidya means I'll give you mantra, and I'll give you the process how to apply this mantra. I will explain to you exactly what is the procedure of applying this mantra, and then you will become happy. And when they heard, they didn't ask her anything. She just came out of the forest and she said, "Oh, I already know your heart." This whole description, this whole scene explained or depicted by Srila Jiva Goswami is actually the explanation how the meeting of a disciple with Guru takes place. You become attracted naturally by some personality, and somehow or other there is you feel some resonance between this particular personality and yourself. Anyway, I will not tell the story. And then when you meet, one very important event sometimes happens. It definitely happened in this particular case. The Guru just tells you something and you understand. And you understand that he knows your heart. The famous story from Srila Prabhupada's life when Gaur Govinda Maharaj came and first saw Srila Prabhupada. He was a mendicant at that time, and when Srila Prabhupada saw they had some conversation, and then Srila Prabhupada said, "Do you want to take sannyas?" And Gaur Govinda Maharaj said, "That's exactly what I want." How do you know? Or he didn't say this, but he was searching for somebody who will give him sannyas. He was looking for exactly for this purpose. And he said, I immediately can understand, this is my Guru, because he knows what's happening within my heart. He's revealing my heart. So exactly the same happened with these gopis when they met Vrinda Devi. Vrinda Devi told them, "Yes, I will explain to you the process by which you will achieve your desired goal. I know your desired goal, and you know your desired goal. And this process will be very easy. Just for 1 month, you will have to perform some austerities." Radha Govinda Maharaj, he gave some lectures on this topic, and he says, Dhruva Maharaj, he was worshipping Krishna for 6 months, and he was performing much more severe austerities. And he said that actually what Vrinda Devi explained to Kumarikas of Raj were exactly true. Because only for 1 month, within 1 month, they achieved their desires. So it's also very important to understand. Srila Jiva Goswami said that she took this mantra like a precious jewel, and like a man who is very protective of the, like a possessor of precious jewel, is very protective, and he wants to keep this precious jewel in a special box. So in the same way, Vrinda Devi, she took mantra from her heart and placed this mantra as the precious jewel in the hearts of these gopis through the ears. That's the process. That's the process of initiation when Guru, feels very strongly about the mantra. When he himself realized the potency and the efficacy of the mantra, he takes the mantra from his heart. And what does it mean that he takes the mantra from his heart, not from his lips? It means that he takes the mantra together with his experience. The mantra is endowed with his spiritual experience. And when we receive mantra from the Guru, we should not receive only just the empty sound. We should receive his experience. He takes something very precious. What is more precious in our life than our spiritual experience? There is nothing more precious. This is something which which will be kept with us and which we will never lose. So this is something very precious, but Guru, because of his mercy, he takes this most precious thing from his heart and gives to the disciple. And the disciple said, and doesn't chant. So this is what unfortunately happens. But you know what? Another very important point of this is that yes, Guru is the manifestation of mercy. We know this from the first verse of Guru Vastraharana, which we chant every day, and it basically means that Guru is ready to give you mercy, and he will come to give you mercy at that very moment when you need mercy. If you don't feel that you need mercy, he will not give the mercy. You know, the gopis were desperate. They were crying and they were completely, because they failed in their attempts to achieve Krishna. And instead of saying, oh, okay, fine, at least the prasadam is still there, no problem. But instead of, you know, making this, coming to this conclusion, they became completely morose and they started crying. And that's why Vrinda Devi came. She came because she heard their cries. She came because she felt that she is needed. And that's why she gave the mantra as a result of her mercy. And that's why when they took the mantra, just within 1 month, they became completely successful. So, and mantra, when Guru gives mantra, he also gives the process by which we should meditate upon mantra. And in this particular case, and that's actually the standard case, when Guru gives mantra, he also gives yaga. That's 2 last stages of initiation. Initiation, Pancha Samskara starts with Tapa, Pundra, Nama, and then mantra and yaga. It basically means that mantra goes together with yaga. Mantra, it's the mantra upon which we should meditate, but yaga means the form which we should worship by chanting this mantra. So they received this mantra, Katyayani Maha Maye, Mahayogini Adishwari. So they received this mantra from Vrinda Devi together with the process of how to realize the potency of this mantra. Because the potency of this mantra is realized when we're completely absorbed in the mantra, but the process of puja is helping us to concentrate our mind on the mantra. That's why they go together. So she explained to them what you should do and how you should do. And of course, they did everything wrong because of their strong desire. But because their desire was so pure, then the procedure, the exactness of the procedure was not important. Why do I say that the exactness of the procedure was not important? Anyway, let's go back a little bit and we will come to this point. We are not yet on the bank. We're on the bank when initiation took place. She explained to them, for 1 month you should do it, but the auspicious time to start some vrata is Pratipad, the first day of the month. And therefore, this particular part of the story happened in the previous month, which is Kartik month. At the end of Kartik month, they received it, they received mantra, they received procedure, and she assured them, you will fulfill all your desires. And they became completely happy. They went back to their houses in a completely joyful mood. And on the first day of the month, actually the night before, they couldn't really sleep because they were always, you know, looking out of the windows. Is it already getting little bright the sun is rising or not. So very early they woke up. It's cold. Let's go there to Vrindavan, to this little village, cowherd village, and these little girls, they know, now I know the method. Now I know how I can achieve my goal. And the whole night they really couldn't sleep because they always woke up and think maybe it's time. And so early they woke up. They came out of their houses and they started knocking to the doors of their friends. Because already they knew that we will do it together, this will be the vrata, because they were initiated together. So in this stealthily, all these little girls, they, while their parents are still asleep, they're coming out from the doors of their houses and they're holding each other by the hands. Srila Sukadeva Goswami, he specifically says that they're going and holding each other with the hands. You imagine this huge Sankirtan party where everyone is holding hands of each other. And Sanatana Goswami is asking, why do they hold hands? And he gives several answers. He says, maybe because it's dark and they're afraid that they will fall or will get lost on the way, therefore they're holding. It's still very dark. It's still night. He says, no, probably because they're afraid, because when they go and they will meditate, probably because they're afraid, because when they go and they will meditate on Krishna and they will just, fell unconscious somewhere on the way, on the road, and, they will be forgotten there. Their friends will go ahead. Can you imagine the whole road, and every now and then, some gopi bodies laying down completely in unconscious state. He says, no. Actually, they were holding hands of each other because they just liked each other. He came with the best explanation. So they're just together and they're holding hands and they're going with this big procession. And as Sukadeva Goswami explains, they're singing the songs on the way. So it's literally, it's a Sankirtan party. Probably they wait a little bit till they came out of the village, not to wake up anyone. Otherwise, it would be quite a scene, huge procession of little girls. So, and they're holding hands and they're singing songs. And Srila Jiva Goswami composes a song, or he, in his meditation, he received the song which they sang, or composes the song, it doesn't really matter. And it's and this is what Sukadeva Goswami explains in the 6th verse, how they're going together, holding hands. And that's exactly why the order is not in order, why the order is backwards. So Srila Jiva Goswami says that, again, their song is a meditation. And what do they meditate? They meditate on the goal. Actually, that's another very important point of this whole Lila, because our process can only become successful if during doing this process, if during this sadhana, we focus on the goal. If we're just doing sadhana, but we forget about the sadhya, we're doing sadhana and we don't know where this sadhana is supposed to bring us, then it's just not sadhana. It's just some mechanical ritual. So what do they sing in the song? In the song they sing, what will happen after this 1 month? So, of course, each and every one of them wants to get Krishna as their husband. But it would not be polite if they would go and think, let Krishna be my husband, and everyone would, repeat this. No, what they chant and what they sing, deep down in the heart, they think, oh, may Krishna be my husband. But they say, oh, my friend, oh, my Saki, oh, you will become successful at the end of this month. That's a great point of Vaishnava etiquette. We should never say that I will become successful, my practice will become successful, but we should definitely praise others and say, at the end of this month, when this vrata will be finished, you will be successful. Krishna will become your husband. And they describe in complete details what will happen after that. Krishna, who is Vanamali, who has this garland of forest flowers, he will become your husband because Nanda Maharaj, it's his cherished desire of his heart to marry his son Krishna to you, my dear Saki. And Nanda Maharaj will announce this, and Krishna's friends will tease him and will offend him and will say, hey. As we know, when the new groom is about to get married, all his friends starts teasing him and start saying, yeah, completely useless. what they are doing. So Subal and Shidam and all the friends of Krishna, they will, and the gopis are imagining this, and Krishna, he will become angry because, and he will just, he will run after his friends who are teasing him and offending him and would try to beat them. So, and then astrologers, they announce the auspicious date. They will choose very carefully the most auspicious day. And when this auspicious day will come, Krishna will be dressed in a very special groom's dress. The very special turban will be there. And they will say that he will have a handkerchief to probably to wipe the tears from his eyes or whatever. So perhaps you have seen this Hindu marriages, the bridegroom, he's like this, and he's sitting like this. He's completely, like a statue. And they describe the whole dress of Krishna, how he has beautiful pearls necklace, and how he's there and how he's sitting, and he doesn't show any emotions. He's just sitting there completely uncomfortable. And how Nanda Maharaj puts him on the bullock cart, and how he sits there, and the whole marriage procession is going to your house, and how you are there in the house. You are sitting there and Krishna is coming to marry you. And when you hear the sounds of the conch shells, and when you hear that the bullock cart is coming, and when you feel that Krishna's presence is there, you are the young bride, you completely, fall unconscious. You are in the swoon, completely losing your consciousness, and your parents become paranoid and hysterical, and they try to revive you. And in the meantime, Krishna arrived to the doors of your house. And Krishna arrived to the doors of your house, and all the ladies from your household, they come out and they start also singing marriage songs. And these marriage songs usually are quite obscene. They are, they're insulting Krishna and say, "What are you doing here? Get out of here." So all these ladies are coming and trying to chase away as a ritual, and in the meantime your father is trying to revive you, and you are in complete swoon, and then the fragrance of Krishna's body touches your nose, and because of this aroma of Krishna's body, you become revived from your swoon. And they put Krishna in the special pandal, marriage pandal, and then your father comes, and your father does puja to the groom and to the groom's father and everything, and then they take you by hand, and by taking you by hand, they bring you to this pandal, and they sit you next to Krishna, and all your desires are fulfilled at this moment, and you are completely, and anyway, they're describing this, and they say, oh, Saki, you're so fortunate. Nobody can describe your fortune, because all your desires will be soon fulfilled. Yes, it will happen. So this is what happens early in the morning. They're going with this procession, then they're composing these songs spontaneously, different songs, as Sukadev Goswami says, and they come to this bank of, Hare Krishna, to the bank of Yamuna, far away in this secluded place, and they take off their saris, and they jump in the river, they take baths very quickly, and put on the clothes. And they make from the sand the statue of goddess Katyayani, and they invite, according to the tantric process, they invite the goddess within this murti. And actually, Sanatana Goswami, commenting on this, he says, why did they worship this deity of Durga made of sand? And he says that actually this is the most efficient form of worship. Basically, what he wants to say is that the deity worship is an efficient form of meditation. The deity worship is a very powerful form of meditation when you can be completely absorbed in the object of your meditation. And it will bring quickly the desired result. And they would invite goddess Katyayani. And the word Katyayani means Kati Kati Ayani. Kati Kati Ayani means Kati Kati значит many, many. Ayani means who is living. Basically, the implication here is that Katyayani is goddess Durga, who is all pervading. She is the potency of the Lord. She is the energy of the Lord. She is the spiritual energy of the Lord, and she is everywhere. And therefore, it's not difficult for her to enter into the murti. Sometimes people, they say that this is all idol worship, that we are worshipping idols. We're not worshipping idols. We are worshipping God, who is invited by us into this particular form so that we could manifest our feelings towards Him, so that we could personally interact with Him. That's the science behind the deity worship. That's an elaborate form of meditation. And then they started meditating on Durga, and they were Katyayani, and they were offering different subjects according to the procedure. But all these subjects, they're completely in a different order in these verses. In the second and the third verses, it is said that how they worshipped, and it's not according to the proper procedure. So, and again, there are two explanations of this. One explanation is that they completely forgot all this, mechanism of worship, and they knew that we have to worship we have to offer certain things, but the order they didn't remember. And another one is that Shukadev Goswami completely forgot about the order. he cannot maintain this, and he's just explaining this out of order. But what is the most important and what is the most interesting in this procedure of their worship is that, first of all, they're completely focused on the goal. They perfectly know what they want to achieve by doing this process. They want to enter into very close relationship with Krishna. And while offering different objects to the deity, they're also meditating what they will get in exchange. Like first, we know idam argyam, idam padyam, first is padyam, first we're worshipping, first we're washing the feet of the deity, and then idam argyam, we're offering special water which is very fragrant to the deity, and then eshamadu we offer some honey and milk, some very sweetened milk. That's practically the first item which is offered. So they're offering this item to the deity, and at the same time they meditate inside their heart. Oh, dear Katyayani, we are offering to you this honey drink. Please take this drink and let us drink the honey of Krishna's lips. Good deal. So this is their meditation. And then they're offering her sari, and they're offering her flowers, and they say, you know, we're offering you this sandalwood paste, and we are smearing the sandalwood paste all over your body, and let our body will be smeared with Krishna, and let our nostrils will feel his aroma. We're offering you this incense, but in exchange we want to get some other incense of the aroma of Krishna's body. So this is how the whole procedure was going on in the bank of Yamuna. And actually Srila Jiva Goswami explains, and Sanatana Goswami as well, that they were, after every day's puja, they were becoming more and more enthusiastic. That's the real deity worship, the real puja. And every day they would bring the new and new items to offer to him, or the better and better and better items. They would probably, I don't know, steal from their parents something to offer to Katyayani, and they were, in other words, they were upgrading the standards of their worship practically every day, trying to find something pleasing to the goddess Durga, so that their desires would be fulfilled. That was going on for 1 month, and every day they would bring something. As Shukadev Goswami said, some of the offerings which we were doing were ordinary, were very simple, and some were very elaborate or very special, very distinguished. Some very special items they were bringing, constantly meditating how this process, according to the promise of their guru, Vrinda Devi, will bring about the final success. And obviously we have to finish soon. So the only thing which I still should say about these verses is the explanation of this mantra, Katyayani Mahamaye Mahayoginyadishwari Nanda Gopa Sutam Devi Patim Me Kuru Te Namaha. So they say in this mantra, Katyayani Mahamaye Mahayoginyadishwari, this is all names of goddess Katyayani or Yogamaya in vocative case. And then they say Ananda Gopa Sutam Devi, He Devi, again vocative case, Devi, and Nanda Gopa Sutam Patim Me Kuru Te Namaha, Kuru. So according to the rules of grammar, if we want to understand Sanskrit, we should first find the verb. And the verb here is kuru. Kuru is imperative. Kuru means make. Make the son of Nandagopa my husband. Pati me kuru te namaha. I'm paying obeisances to you, but in exchange you make the son of Nandagopa Sutam my husband. Patim me kuru te namaha. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he is explaining the dialogue which is going on between them and the Devi whom they worship. And the Devi says, you know, why you say kuru? How I can make son of Nanda Maharaj your husband? You know, I'm not a matchmaker. You know, your parents are supposed to make him. I can inspire them. I cannot do this directly. I'm not in the position to make this match directly, and therefore they say Mahamaya, but no, you're Mahamaya, you can do it. You can completely bewilder everyone. You know, actually, it's the duty of the parents to marry their girl to a particular boy. Katyayani says that I can only inspire them to do it, but they should do it. But they say, no, you do it directly. So, and then they say, how come? You know, the Katyayani says, how come I should do it directly? Why should I do it directly? And they say, Mahayogini. Mahayogini, the word yoga, yogini, comes from the root huge. And huge means to combine, huge means to bind. And they say, Mahayogini, because you're Mahayogini, you're binding everyone. So why don't you become our matchmaker? You're anyway doing this. You are this is your duty. You are supposed to bring the souls with the Krishna. You are supposed to bind them together with Krishna. So that's your direct duty. That's what they are implying this. And when she says, no, I cannot do this. It's just, you know, he's the Supreme Lord. How can I do this? You know, your desire is too high. And then they say Adhishwari. Adhishwari means, no, he is the Supreme Lord, but you are the Supreme Goddess. You can do anything. You are the supreme controller. Everything is under your control, including himself. And then when she answers to them, no, I cannot do this because I'm afraid of Lakshmi. What Lakshmi will say? You know, how it will. And then they again say, no, you are Adhishwari, you know, you will manage it. You are Mahamaya and you are Adhishwari, you will bewilder her, and ultimately you are Devi, therefore you can do it. Anyway, the implication here is that while when acharyas, they're trying to explain the meaning of this prayer, they are revealing the emotional content of the heart, so that it's not just a mechanical repetition. Katyayani Mahamaya, Mahayogini Adhishwari, you know, every word is laden by the deep meaning and the deep desire to achieve the goal. So that's what's going on in this month of Margashira or Dhanush Mass. Dhanush Mass is the month, Margashira is the month where sun is in Sagittarius, which is in Sanskrit, Dhanush. So this is cold mass, and they are doing this worship for the whole month. And what happened at the last day of this month, we will tell next time. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. I guess there's no questions. Unless you want to repeat the same vow. And actually, this is what Srila Jiva Goswami says. Why Srila Shukadev Goswami explains these details. He said, in case somebody wants to do the same, so Srila Jiva Goswami gives the details of this process. Okay.
Thank you very much. I have two short questions, if you would please allow. One is relating to, you described how the young gopis, when initially they were quarreling, but then when they got together at the bank of the river, they felt relief and not anxiety that they were all in love with Krishna, which is so beautiful and interesting. But at the same time, it's very bewildering for my mind that each of them loved Krishna and they had the same love interest, but there was no anxiety, but there was relief. If you would please address this.
See, jealousy is an inevitable companion of mundane love. But it doesn't exist in a spiritual relationship because they just, when they understood each other's heart, they became so charmed by this, and they understood, oh, this little girl, this little friend of mine has the same aspiration as I, and that makes somebody closer. So that's the distinction and the difference between the mundane love and spiritual love. They just, there is no jealousy there. Otherwise, Gopi, when they ran to Krishna while Krishna was playing the flute in Vamshivat, they would probably, put some obstacles to other gopis on the way. They would run and put some, some trunk of the tree behind them. So there is no jealousy there. They just, they're in complete harmony. And of course, they know that Krishna can fulfill everyone's desire.
And then my second question was how you explained how we should not take the empty sound from the spiritual master, but also the spiritual experience. And it's just something I was reflecting about a few days ago. For example, when I received the Gayatri Mantra and I was chanting it in the beginning, it was such a powerful experience. And I know that my sincerity also may be faded, but the experience is not the same. Somehow it faded. So how could I improve that?
There is this story of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Gadadhar Pandit. And Gadadhar Pandit in Jagannath Puri, Gadadhar Pandit at one point, he revealed his mind and he admitted to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, my mind is not steady anymore while I am chanting mantra. Can you give me mantra again to make my mind steady? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he became angry. He said, no, I cannot do this. You should wait till Pundarik Vidyanidhi comes here, and then you can ask him to give you mantra again, to make it steady. So that's the procedure. You can ask your spiritual master to reinforce mantra by giving it again. That's possible. That's bona fide. That's according to this story. But you cannot get it from somebody else.
Guru Maharaj, just technical detail that you once mentioned in another lecture, not in this session, which I don't know if you will mention before, but it seems like there are two types of gopis, one who are the Siddhas and the Sadhakas.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the significance of this exactly? And since they both have the same prayojana, like you said.
The sadhana siddha gopi, which are not yet sadhana siddha gopi, they have to achieve a certain stage. And actually some acharyas say that those particular kumarikas, they were sages of Dandakaranya forest from Padma Purana. They reveal or they describe their identity in this way. They wanted to get married with Krishna and with Ramachandra, and Ramachandra said, in this lifetime I cannot fulfill your desire, but your desire will be fulfilled in the next life. And therefore in this life they were born with this desire, and this desire quickly manifested within their heart, and they continued the process through chanting the mantra and doing the particular kind of worship. So Nitya Siddhas, they're already perfect. And this is not even yet sadhana siddhas, they're sadhakas who are doing particular sadhana to achieve the goal.
I wanted to ask a question about this effect of Yogamaya and Mahamaya, how it works. Maybe you can expand on what happens with the devotees or non-devotees when the Yogamaya influences them, and what happens with the person when Mahamaya, and what's the difference between this?
The difference is exactly in the name. Yogamaya is the illusory or bewildering potency of the Lord, which by her bewilderment or illusions facilitates yoga or the connection between the soul and the Lord. So her main function is to establish this connection between the soul and the Lord, and sometimes to push you in this direction, or even to push Krishna in this direction. You need to be like in the beginning when we met with the devotees. We were so enthusiastic because we thought, okay, I got it. Very soon I will be with Krishna. So that's Yogamaya. This is exactly the influence of Yogamaya, because you think, oh, very soon it will happen for me. Then after some time you come out from this Maya. but if you prefer to remain in this Yogamaya, then very soon it will happen. In any case, so Mahamaya is this bewildering potency which separates you from the Lord, which creates different illusions or different perceptions or different understandings of fantasies in your mind, which bring you further away from the Lord. And it's basically the same energy which functions in two different ways, because ultimately there is only one energy of the Lord. And therefore the names of this energy is interchangeable. Sometimes Mahamaya is called Durga, and we hear from this purport that sometimes Yogamaya is also called Durga. And in the mantras, Durga is the Adhishwari, she is the presiding deity of this mantras, Krishna's mantras. So that's the proof that it's Yogamaya, it's not Mahamaya. So it's the same energy, which functions differently, like Prabhupada explains that electricity can create heat and electricity can create cold. So in the similar way, the same energy of the Lord can facilitate your meeting with the Lord or your connection with the Lord, provided you really want it. If your desire is consistent. If you're not flip-flopping with your desire, if you're steady and consistent with this desire, then she will arrange your life in such a way, even though it may seem to be a little bewildering, but you will go through certain tests and certain obstacles, but ultimately it will facilitate your meeting with the Lord. But if she feels that you're not really, externally or consciously you say, yes, I want to be with the Lord, but deep down you don't want, she will also facilitate this. She will give you some opportunities to be frustrated in this desire, but ultimately, help you to come closer to Him. Maharaj wants to ask a question.
I think it will be nice Sankirtana when I see your group of devotees. You will receive bath in this life. And everybody answered, you will receive bath. So it's kind of trick.
Yeah. You bless everyone, and in exchange you get everyone's blessings for the same. Okay, you want to ask?
We heard about these beautiful descriptions about gopis, or love, which is so pure, so innocent. They pray and have no. They just want to have so many desires. They want to have that back. It's so innocent, that love, right? They just desire, and they have demands on Krishna. They want it back in so many ways. But on the other hand, which is not on the other hand, but I understand it's a different mood or display of love. We have Srimati Radharani praying, please, Krishna, you can trust me, you can do whatever you like. You will always be my Lord of the heart. So I found that very beautiful.
There are different expressions of love, and they are corresponding to different levels of the spiritual advancement and spiritual development. So, here we see gopis in their purvarak, and they're sprouting little, emotions towards Krishna, and there we can see full-fledged emotions of Srimati Radharani, and actually it's difficult to understand. In Prema Samput, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, when people start talking about love and explaining what is love and telling about love, it means they don't understand anything about love. So that's the very clear sign that they have no clue, because love cannot be explained. It can only be experienced. But in any case, we can just...
Thank you much. You mentioned that the Guru is always ready to give mercy. And he wants to see that we are desperate. And in my experience, sometimes I am desperate, and many times I'm not. What's the secret of an advanced devotee to always maintain that?
The level of desperation. It's, when we become complacent, when we think, I already know, I'm already there, I'm already almost perfect. Not yet, but, it's in comparison with these other guys. then of course, the complacency is the enemy, and humility is the friend. If we always feel that, I'm trying and trying and trying, and still I'm so far away, and you become humble, and like in their desperation, the gopis, they ask everyone, where is Krishna? Or Goswamis of Vrindavan, He Radhe Vrajadeviki, He Devite, He Lalite, He Nandasuna Kutaha. So, it's just understanding how high and beautiful the goal is. If this understanding is very clear, then it helps us to understand that we are too far away. And sometimes Guru helps us with this. There is a beautiful story from Prabhupada's life, and they were somewhere in Madras, I believe, group of devotees with Prabhupada, and they were staying in one house, a rich person's house, and somebody, and there was this little girl, Saraswati, there, daughter of Shyama Sundar and Malati, and somebody gave her little murti of Krishna, silver murti of Krishna, and she loved him. And then Prabhupada somehow or other took it and hid it behind his back. And Malati became mad, and she started running all over the place and asking, where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? She was coming to everyone and saying, where is Krishna? Where is my Krishna? Please give me Krishna. And Prabhupada smiled and said, she's like Goswamis of Vrindavan. She's running everywhere, asking, give me Krishna, give me Krishna. And then somebody told Saraswati, Saraswati, who has Krishna? And Saraswati, she thought for a moment. She said, Prabhupada has Krishna. And she ran to him and she said, give me Krishna, give me Krishna. And Prabhupada gave her Krishna. So sometimes Guru makes a trick.
Just based on what you were saying now at the end, that the mood is, I don't have Krishna and I'm looking for him. Coming from the material world where we have to pretend that I know everything and I'm strong, and it's quite difficult, I find.
It is. Mm. Yeah, it's a completely different way of functioning in the society of devotees, because all the values which are here, they are not really the values in the material world, and they don't help. And that's why it's so difficult for us, because all the things which we learned in the material world are not helpful in the spiritual life. And vice versa, all the things which we learn here are not helpful there. So that's a problem. So how to unlearn some things and learn another things, and that's where the society of devotees is necessary, because the society of devotees, in the society, when the society of devotees is protective, when the devotees are very supportive of your pursuits, and when they're appreciative of your humility, and they don't take advantage of your humility, then you can develop this. So we need a supportive society to unlearn the old habits and to develop the new habits, and to really understand how they work, how they are beneficial and not detrimental.
I You mentioned that deity worship is a very powerful form of meditation. And for example, if a devotee is attached to preaching, can preaching facilitate meditation also?
Oh yeah, of course. Sure. Preaching means constant meditation. Yeah, definitely. Whatever we do is a meditation. It helps, facilitates meditation. Definitely. Just one more question.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much for the beautiful classes. I have a question for yesterday's class. May I clarify one thing? If I understand it correctly, we were explaining like our position, current position, that our heart is very like contaminated. Therefore, our heart cannot generate like these pure emotions towards Krishna, and we cannot like force ourselves to do that because it's like meaningless. And I was thinking about that, and after lecture, these like phrase or quote came to my mind from Guru Maharaj, who was maybe saying to his disciples, like, put Krishna on the platform of love. Maybe I did not understand that correctly, what really he was like addressing and who he was addressing, but I find like how can we understand this together, that we need to put Krishna on the platform of love, but at the same time we are unable to do that. If you can please clarify.
See, there is love and there is love. There is love which is not, which is difficult to achieve and which is not, just still far away. When Guru Govinda Maharaj is speaking about love, he's speaking about very preliminary stages of love, which some sort of attachment which we already have. Every one of us has some attachment. Otherwise, we wouldn't stay here. What would we do here? So it basically means that he is the object of our love and worship, and we cherish this object of our love and worship, and we don't want to lose this. Whatever we're capable now, we do have some capability, some sort of ability to experience some emotions that maybe not the highest possible emotions, but something we can do. Something is accessible to us. Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
His Holiness Bhakti Swami Maharaj ki